Okay, fantastic. As I mentioned, Resource 20 underperformed significantly, in fact, underperformed the likes of the industrial sector and also the financial sector, only coming in with growth of around 12.3% for the whole year. That said, in December, we saw a nice increase of around 7%. So let's look at the performance, last year's performance. I'm sure you're not smiling due to the fact that we haven't seen it outperform.
Look, I think it shows what a great year for investors 2010 was. When you say the resource sector really did bad, it only did 12.5%, because gee, that was double cash. And it was a Cinderella year last year and the year before.
And the industrial 25 sector, though, increased 27%.
I know it. I know. Well, that was more than Cinderella. Yeah, it was a fantastic year for industrials, but the correlation is really with the rand. This is the lowest the mining sector has been to the industrial sector in 10 years. And it's also almost the strongest the rand has been in 10 years. So that's where your correlation comes from. Strong rand is going to help the industrial sector much more than mining. But I think it was very admirable. Mining did 12.5%. We had very low inflation. I think, what, maybe 4%. So investors can't cry. They would have done better in the industrial sector. Hey, property gave them 30%.
Yeah.
But
do you think that the Resi is going to play catch up this year? Can it?
It definitely can. It's mostly linked to the rand. It's a great rand hedge, has more than a 1-to-1 gearing. So if the rand stays where it is today, for the rest of the year, I think the resource sector will battle to give us more than 10 or 12. But if the rand weakens, then the resource sector should be able to give us 14, 15, 16. And I don't see the industrial sector giving more than 15 this year.
All right, before we let's delve into some of these companies. Uranium One came out with production numbers, and when you think about it, in South Africa, if you want exposure to uranium, you don't have much option. Uranium One production for 2010 more than doubled to 7.4 million pounds of U3O8 compared to 3.6 million pounds last year. For the fourth quarter, it climbed 75% to 2.1 million pounds year on year. Your thoughts on Uranium One as an investment opportunity?
Well, production increases are usually really good for a company, because then even if the commodity price is flat, if you're producing more, you're making more. But a lot of these production increases are coming from deals, and so you have share dilution, etc. So the average investor, and me and probably you, we just want to know what's the profit increase per share. And it's kind of ironic, if you look at the Uranium One price today, it's exactly where it was 5 years ago, the day they launched. So
you wouldn't be buying into Uranium One?
Yeah, I think I would. I think Kazakhstan is kind of the world capital of uranium, and they've done very good deals. They don't have any exposure in South Africa, but they have exposure in the major...
What about First Uranium as an alternative?
Boy, I keep looking at that, Eleni. It's probably, we can say it's the most undervalued uranium stock on the planet. They've got decent assets, they've got brand new plants, but they've got capital problems, and they've had big time delays. But that is a punt worth looking at.
The reason that uranium is becoming more attractive is the share price, the price of uranium has gone up around 40%. You alluded to that a little earlier on the phone. Driving demand clearly coming up quite significantly. Do you think that perhaps investors could also get exposure to uranium through an ETF in London?
Yeah, I haven't tracked that one. It was launched about 4 or 5 years ago. Funny enough, Uranium One has beaten the uranium price for the last 3 years. So that's good when a company is beating the commodity price, as they all should, especially in a rising environment. So it shows Uranium One is properly managed, properly run, if it's beating the uranium price. First Uranium has grossly underperformed the uranium price. But we know most things revert to the mean. If something grossly underperforms year after year, then it's usually followed somewhere by a large outperformance.
Let's look at new technologies when it comes to uranium and the way it could impact uranium companies going forward. China says that we can process nuclear fuel, and this, of course, according to CCTV, state television in China, and saying that if they do break through this technology, then they could yield enough uranium to last, enough energy to last 3,000 years. Can this be done? I mean, this sounds exorbitant, Peter.
I've got friends that are nuclear physicists, and more of them say it is possible than less of them. It can be done at various economic levels, but I should say negative economic levels. But yes, everybody's working on it. Currently, man only harnesses 1.5%, I think not even 2% of the actual energy contained in uranium. Now just look at coal. We're improving boilers and coal-fired power plants all the time. We're getting probably double the energy out of coal that we were 30, 40 years ago. We can get even 20% more than 5, 6 years ago. It's the same with uranium. We're only taking out 1.5%, the real easy bit. So there's a lot of contained energy.
So there's a lot of wastage in terms of energy. Potential energy.
Here, you're right, because at least coal, if you mine a ton, you burn a ton. You might burn it inefficiently. Whereas uranium, you mine it, but you're only extracting 1.5%.
Well, Peter, I mean, I can hear that perhaps it is a possibility down the line. I mean, in your mind, how long will it take before such technologies do come to the fore?
I'll be surprised if it doesn't come out strong in a year or two. I think the Chinese have amazed the rest of the world in so many spheres, putting men in space. Building their own nuclear power plants, building coal plants. Look how they come on solar energy. I think we're right on the cusp of this. There's a lot of research scientists that say we could be doing it if we just had a little more money. I think we'll see this in a year or two. I really do. Better extraction of uranium energy.
And what about palladium? It seems that Japanese authorities have also been talking about the fact that they found an alternative technology to palladium, so another risk to the likes of investment into platinum, palladium, and the PGMs as a whole.
Yeah, now this story is older, and I think it has less credence, because literally for the 20 years that I've been watching platinum shares closely, this story seems to come up at least once a year. Sometimes they replace palladium with manganese, sometimes with another metal. I don't doubt they can find another metal that will fulfill a lot of the functions that palladium does. It might even be an alloy. It might be putting 2 or 3 other metals together. But the fact that they don't follow this up with more information, we've heard this story at least a dozen times in 15 years, or a similar story to it. I don't give so much credibility to this story.
Coal prices rising extensively. I mean, looking at what happens, it was happening in Australia, floods there, exports coming to a halt literally. And we're also seeing a lot of buyers interested in South African coal, thermal coal to be exact, Peter. Tell us about the scenarios that is playing out. Investors that I've spoken to over the past 2 weeks, since the beginning of the year, they're saying that they're buying Optimum Coal, Coal of Africa and Exxaro.
Well, yeah, you buy coal wherever you can get it. They're probably buying shares in all the other countries as well. It was a market that was quite in tight balance before these floods. And with the big growth in India and China, 2 largest countries in the world, the 2 largest coal users in the world, well, we're very close for India, but they're growing so rapidly. Even without these floods, the coal price was going up. And the floods, they've just compounded it literally overnight. I think coal has added, it's gone from about $80 a ton to 110, 120 in literally 30 days, month and a half. So when the floods recede, coal production will pick up. These prices will come down from this level, but it's rising prices all the time.
Let's look at South Africa's export capacity. Coal export capacity not fully met out of the Richards Bay coal terminal, even before we started expanding on it and created more capacity. Where do you see this going forward, Peter?
Boy, this is a real conundrum. You've got a terminal, the world's largest, most efficient terminal when it was finished about 25 years ago. And boilerplate capacity was 71 million tons. And it used to get close to that, 68, 69 million tons, I think 71 or 2 years, 20 years ago. Now, the last 3 years, I think we're doing 61, 62, 63 million tons. And they blame it on the railroad. But in the meantime, they expand Richards Bay Terminal from 71 million tons to 91, with talk of going even higher. But when you see how far the gap is between what the railroad can deliver, the railroad looks like it can't even deliver 65. Now you got a terminal that does 91. Does government want us to export 70 million tons, 80 million? Not if they listen to Eskom, who's saying we're exporting too much, and it's driving their prices up.
Okay, Peter, let's touch on the gold price because we're running out of time. Would you be buying gold at these levels?
No, major city wouldn't buy it for the last 2 months.
Rand terms, though, we haven't done that badly.
No, we've done really well. I think, what were we at, 14% in rands last year? It wasn't a bad investment. It's just that gold has been a fantastic investment for 10 years, and I think it's time to level off, and I think equities will do better than gold going forward.
Debt crisis, inflation down the line, printing of money, quantitative easing to perhaps 3, 4.
Yeah, I think that's in the price. If we see massive more quantitative easing. If we see bigger debt crises than we've got now, then sure, gold will go up, but so will most of the other commodities.
Peter, your favorite companies, resource companies for 2011, what are you looking at? I mean, perhaps even just looking at AngloGold Ashanti, a company that got rid of its hedge book last year, and of course quite a brave move by Mark Cutifani, who sold gold at around $1,300 an ounce.
He's done a fantastic job. He's done everything that needed to be done. No gold company could have a better manager. And yet, Goldfields did 19% last year. AngloGold did what, 0? And it's a little bit scary, because if they did that with a fantastic gold price environment and a fantastic manager, then you wonder, what can they do to do better? It's not on my buy list. I think our...
Okay, stock picks for 2011. Which would you be looking at?
I'd definitely be in Sasol. I think oil, coal stocks, I said before, I think all coal stocks are likely to go up. I like West Coal. It's a great growth story. It doesn't even need a higher coal price, I think, for them to increase earnings. Yeah. Anglo American, it's kind of lagged the other mining financials. It's lagged Billiton, etc., heavy capex. If they can just kind of get Amplats going right. Is that enough?
Fantastic, Peter. I've written them down and I'm going to watch these performances.